All right. So let me take the opportunity of saying welcome. Welcome to Grace Without Borders. Oh, hold on. I gotta get something cut off here. Hold on a second here. Something like I shouldn't be. I'm not supposed to be hearing that. I am not supposed to be hearing that. I'm not supposed to be getting. Okay, so let me see if I get that off. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are good.
All right. Okay, good. So now I can hear you. All right. So let me say welcome to Grace Without Borders podcast, and I'm also streaming live on Warby Ministries on my YouTube channel. So I want to welcome Dr. Douglas Clark officially, and Dr. Marlene Collins Blair, and Samantha Reed. These are teachers. These are teachers in the system who are experiencing the COVID as we speak, the challenges of the classroom, and the difficulties of remote learning and remote teaching. And so let me welcome you. And since I didn't ask for a brief bio, of which I know a lot about everybody, because I've been around you for so long, and I've been around Sister Marlene for I don't remember how many years, but a lot of years up in Rochester, New York. Many, many, many years, and I've been among you from 2011, so I know quite a bit about you. I watched Sam grew and become this proud professional young lady that make us all so proud. And she's moved so fast up in life that I can't imagine how fast how things have changed in a few years. But good to have you. All right. So now maybe you can say a little bit about yourself, that those who don't know you can get a little bit on, not a full bio, but a little briefing about who you are.
Should I start?
We can start because, Joe, go ahead and start. The younger maybe lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Samantha Reed. I teach 10th grade global history in the South Bronx. This is my 4th year in education, but 3rd year teaching non-consecutively. This year has been full of challenges, but it's also developed a new skill set in teaching remotely. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to hear about others' experiences, and thank you for having me.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Hi, I am Marlene Collins Blair. I teach Spanish language and cultures at the college level. I also, my most current role has been that of Dean of the online college. Like where I teach, I'm Dean of the online program. So remote learning, or what COVID has brought, is nothing new to me, because I've been teaching online for quite a number of years, over 10 years. So I'm pretty comfortable teaching in the online environment because I'm very used to it. There was very little I needed to adopt or to adapt to. But my area is Spanish languages and literatures in the classroom when I do teach. Mm-hmm.
And before Dr. Clark comes in, let me just say to her, yeah, say to every said those who don't know, for what I knew, I don't know if things change now, but what I knew, that they don't speak English, or they didn't speak English in their classes.
Right, that's correct. Teach strictly in Spanish. I have near native speaker competence. I lived in Spain for a while. That's where I really learned Spanish. I lived there for 4 years consecutively, and then I traveled there for quite a number of years. And I have traveled very often. At least before I had kids, I would travel several times a year to a Spanish speaking country, and I would stay there for weeks. And I still practice speaking the language. I read in it, I pray in the language, I read my Bible, I do lots of stuff just to maintain my fluency. So in order to really learn the language well, you really have to extend yourself. So I tell students, some of them are intimidated, but they usually get it, and I'm there to support them. But yes, everything is taught in Spanish.
That's pretty cool. I wish I grew up doing something like that. All right, the only gentleman, your time, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Douglas Clark, and I've been in education for a pretty long time. Presently, I'm teaching in New York City public schools. I've been teaching there. This is my 20th year. I teach basically middle school now, but my experience range from elementary to college level. I work in Jamaica, I work in Turks and Caicos teaching, but presently the online forum, I've never taught online before. I did courses online, but in terms of teaching, I've never done that before. So this is a new thing for me, but I am adapting quite well.
Okay. All right. All right. So, all right, then welcome. 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 Good to have you, everybody. And I'm waiting on Sister Samuel. Hopefully she'll join us. I did expect that she might be running a little bit late. So hopefully I keep my eyes up. If she pops in, I'll get her joining us. In the meanwhile, everybody is impacted with this COVID, because we're going to kind of focus a little bit on this COVID thing. Unfortunately, it is kind of coming back again. A few months ago, in the beginning of it, New York was ground zero, and unfortunately, the other states didn't learn from New York experience, and they took it for granted. And now it is like wildfire now in the West, and it's now coming back east because there are no borders on these states. So you can travel, and people have reasons to travel different places. And once you let your guards down, and the most dangerous thing, or the deceiving thing about this virus, is that you can be carrying it and don't know. Being asymptomatic, you could feel good, you don't have no symptoms, no sign of nothing, and you're just going about your jolly way, and you're spreading the virus. And so people innocently spread the virus, and we're getting back into where we were, and the fearful place of where we don't want to be. We're getting back there again, unfortunately. So everybody is impacted by this coronavirus thing. Some people more than others, and of course in many different ways. Some of us have already contracted it, and some people who we know have died from it, and some people who we know are suffering from it right now, and we are fearful that it might happen. So I want to go around the horn, go around and hear from you. How would you describe your experience with the COVID? How would you describe your experience having to transform, or the transition from being in the classroom to remote teaching? Now, Sister Marlene said that was one of her familiar territories, but I'm sure with COVID, it's a different mentality, a different perspective, because now, even if you wanted to be there, you couldn't be there. So let's start off. We're going to start this time. We're going to switch it around. So let's go with Sister Marlene, because Dr. Collins, because this is her familiar territory of doing remote teaching.
Okay. Well, the challenge with online learning for COVID for me was that before, students could choose to take a course online. So the students I was teaching wanted to be there. They signed up for the classes, and in more cases than not, they wanted to be there. In some cases, they had to do it in order to graduate in time. So those students were already motivated. This time around, students were forced to be there. Some who were not, some who just really don't like online learning, some who were not prepared, some who didn't have the the right tools. Not everybody has internet access at home. There were technical difficulties. So this presented quite a number of challenges that were not otherwise present when I would teach online. So in terms of challenges with COVID, I would say those are the main ones. Students who just really did not have the technology needed to really do this, those who just don't like online learning or just did not learn the skills to cope with learning in the online world, because people just assume, okay, you're online, well, go learn, it should be okay. It really requires a set of discipline. And like when I have taught online before, I would give students tips. How do I really manage my time? How do I complete this course? I have all this time. I don't have set class schedules. How do I not, just really get behind, have lots of assignments pending because I didn't complete it? So it takes some discipline and some coaching that I think was just not given to a lot of students during COVID. So they were just slugging their way through because it was, and it was really hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I'm coming back to the others, but as you say that, when you have options to do things, sometimes it's not so pressuring. Well, now
Right.
when you have to do it by compulsory, now it is a lot more pressure. So I could understand when they say, "Oh, I choose to sign on online," but now
Yeah.
I have no option. It becomes a little bit more hard to handle,
Right.
mentally, psychologically, actually.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm. All right, let me keep it going. See what your experiences, what are your experiences with this transition into classroom remote teaching and student learning? Let's go, Sam, if you say ladies first.
Okay, no problem. So on March 13th was our last official day in the school building last school year. We were well aware that COVID was a problem, but the Sunday evening, so that would be the 15th, we got the announcement that all schools would close down. And on the Monday, teachers had to go in for about 3 days to prep, but we were really unfamiliar with how we would facilitate learning with such a short turnaround. So we were using Google Classroom, which is an online platform where you upload assignments and things of that nature. And the students were competent in using that, but some teachers did not feel comfortable going live as we are right now. Our administration gave us a lot of leeway as to whether or not we would have live classes or do asynchronous learning, which simply means that you post an assignment and you wait for the student to complete it. So given the fact that I was unfamiliar with how to facilitate learning virtually, I took the asynchronous route where I would prepare lessons, readings, and the students would submit it in their own time. But in doing so, the connection was lost. And it was challenging. A lot of students faced anxiety. To echo Dr. Collins Blair, technology was an issue. Not many students, or not every student, had proper technology, Wi-Fi and things of that nature. So we had to extend a lot of grace. Some students did not log in, did not care to be involved. 15% of our population is in temporary housing. So that also caused a great deal of stress. So it was definitely an upward battle.
How did you manage the navigating through that, especially knowing that some children were at a disadvantage and still you're presenting them all or have to try to reach them so you can teach them?
Yeah, so I did my best in trying to email them. I had established a good relationship in the classroom for the 6 or 7 months that we were there. So they knew who I was and how I functioned as a teacher. So I just tried to, show them that I cared via email. There were some students who did not turn in a lot of assignments, and instead of just emailing them saying, hey, where is the work? I would say, how are you doing? How's your family? Because if your basic needs are not met, then you're not going to care about the schoolwork. So I just tried to be nice to say the least. And our administration worked with the technology director to get more Wi-Fi spots for students. So it was a Herculean task, but we all worked together to try to support the students because we knew that they were high performing in the school building. We just had to support them in this adjustment.
Yeah, I and from where I am, I just as I've heard it on the news too, and I can't imagine how difficult it must have been, and how devastating for some of the parents and the children who are in areas where they don't have Wi-Fi, and some of these children didn't have computers and all that stuff to, for this unexpected turnaround or transition in their learning abilities. And some people are not able to interact on screen as well as others, with if they have a gathering when we're all together where they can actually touch, hear, and feel, so it must. I'll come to that later on and see maybe how you see the learning aspect of it. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Let's hear from Dr. Clark, the man in the room.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what has been said already.
Well, nobody has said anything for you.
I know, but Samantha has said some things that are related to, well, both Sister Marlene and Samantha have said things that are related to me. I think the greatest challenge, if I may add, is students' engagement. I think for most part, the students are frustrated because this is something new. They have never been in a situation where they were forced to attend class online. So even at this present time, in terms of getting work from them, the work is minimal. And to some extent, it's substandard work. It's not quality as if they were in the classroom because they are frustrated. We ran off in last March, and we weren't prepared for it. No one was, and we weren't even trained in terms of having training as to how to navigate the different platforms and how to fully implement technology. We didn't have that knowledge. We did not even have the knowledge of how to create a classroom online, a Google Classroom. We didn't have that knowledge. But as we go along, we learn from each other. And thank God for YouTube. Some things we gathered from YouTube. Other people put stuff there, and we try to learn and navigate. And at this point in time, we are doing pretty well in terms of how we operate with the different platforms. But we are still encountering issues with students' engagement because the students are not logging on. Every week, for example, my school asks for a weekly data check-in, which we have to turn in every Monday. And a part of that report is the percent of students who are unassessed, who are not doing any work. And when I look on the data on a whole, it's a far cry that the students really need help in terms of getting them engaged. Because I for one, I think maybe they are home, the parents are not there, and even if the parents are there, the students pretend as if they are doing schoolwork while they are doing other things. We try to get them to turn their cameras on, but that is not really the best thing because sometimes you're going to see things that you don't really want to see. So we don't really enforce that. We don't force them to do that. But even turn the camera on, they could be looking on the computer. And so you see them looking on the computer and you believe that they are doing what you want them to do. But they are there playing games or doing some other things. And it shows in the type of work that they turn in. In terms of how it affected me per se, it affected me in that I like to be where the students are. I like that social setting where I can see them, I can talk to them. I feel I like the in-person thing. I don't like the virtual thing. Sometimes I'm here and I'm teaching and I'm asking them questions, they're not even answering, and I feel like I'm by myself talking to a screen because they're not responding. So when they don't do that, I would say, well, if you don't respond, if you don't type for me to know, then I'm going to remove you from a class. And when I say that, they start to respond in the chat, because they're afraid of being removed from the class. So yes, it's a new thing. And I think by and large, teachers are getting there. There's still frustration because there are technical issues, and getting students engaged is the biggest challenge at this time.
I could only imagine that, and I could only imagine the frustration, and how much you want your students to learn, and it seems like you have more interest in them learning than they have in their own learning. So that on that side of it, how frustrating that must be for you, when that kind of approach to it will not give you the outcome, and that at the end of the day it's going to be your class that you have to grade, and that kind of stuff. That must be frustrating. How do you cope with that?
Well, like the in-person situation where you try to contact parents, we still engage in that. But some parents too are frustrated because their children are having technical issues. Sometimes the Wi-Fi not working, internet issue. Sometimes the device not working, computer issue. And other times the kid might oversleep, right? So the parents are having issue, and when you contact some of them, they actually, they get irritated and they got you, in a negative way. I remember talking to one parent and they say, "Why you calling? We spoke to another teacher already, so why are you calling?" But of course, I have no way of knowing that the parent had spoken to somebody else before. So when I call, I get the thing from the parent, which is not too good, and they don't even understand that it's because you're interested in their child's future. Why you're calling to let them know that the child has not logged on and all of that. But another way is sometimes, we work as a team. One of the good things that comes out of this thing here, it's not all bad, is collaboration. Most of the things that we do now, we have to work in team to get them done. So we talk to each other like teachers in a team, and they give suggestions as to what we need to do to, get through to some parents, because some teachers have better relationship with some parents than others. And they will tell you how to approach a particular parent. You might talk to them before you actually, if you call and you get a negative response, then you might want to talk to another teacher who has had that child before, and they'll give you some tips as to how to deal with the parent. So it's not only that the students are not logging in the Google Meets and attending class and then being engaged. It could also be with the parent. And as I said, that the in-person thing to me is far better than the virtual, because when you're there, you can see the child, you can talk to them. It's a different feel. It's personal. It has a different flavor to it. The love can be felt more than just looking at the computer, So
Yeah, get it. I got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna come back to, because you make mention a little bit about what would have been one of my next questions, which I'm still gonna ask. But Dr. Blair, the fact that you have been in this kind of setting for a long time, how, when you see now the when it become a requirement, and did you have the same kind of experiences of somewhat like the other teachers, that some of your students didn't have Wi-Fi or weak Wi-Fi, computer system setup. Is that at the college level too, as well as at the elementary level and the high school level? You hear me, Dr. Blair?
I think it's freezing.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I may have frozen a little bit or something. Or let me.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you hearing me? Okay, I'm
I
not
hear you
sure.
now. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened. I would say not to the same extent. What I find with college students would mainly be technical difficulties. Um, some of them are quite true, like if they needed to, because what I used to meet with my students at least once a week for about 40 minutes to talk with them because I had virtual office hours. And because we would normally have office hours on the college campus where they could come in and ask questions. So, I'd have office hours, but I'd also do some one-on-one with them just to make sure everything was going good. But then from time to time, they might have an assignment due and you don't know if they completed it or not. They're like, oh, my computer crashed, or, I had tech difficulties. So, I need some time to hand it in. So what I had with college students was just technical difficulties. But in terms of equipment, some colleges give computers to freshman college students, so so everybody would have a computer. And like at my children's school, I have 3 children who are in grade school, and they all got computers from the school. So that was pretty neat, like in their school. So, to kind of alleviate that. And they also distributed hotspots for those who didn't have like internet access at home or good internet access. So they really did a lot to help. But as I said, at the college level, it was really technical difficulties as opposed to not having equipment that they needed.
As you thought, as you mentioned that, I thought of asking you that because, and then it's good that you mentioned it, because not only that you are the teacher from the remote level, you also have 3 children who not at your level of teaching, but
Right.
at your level of parenting. So it must be a double, I don't know, I want to say whammy, but how do you balance those two? Because you have to teach and your children need to learn coming from another direction.
Well, the children's school has done a tremendous job. They're in the same school system and they're pretty good. So like every week I get a report of what the assignments they have to complete, what they have completed or what they completed the week before, so that I can be on top of things. They communicate with me regularly through Remind. It's an app on the phone. So if there's anything going on, they'll send me a text. So they don't have to pick the phone up to call me, or, so it's not really very inconvenient. But it's like text messaging. So they use Remind. They send out little notes, or we're going to be doing so and so. And they meet with the children every day except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays is sort of like the day when they catch up on work. So they're meeting with the kids 2 to 3 times a day. So the social interaction for them is not missing at all. And then because I have experience in that world, it's not so hard for my children. But I also find that because they're digital natives, they don't have as much difficulty at all. I mean, they didn't like being thrown in it, but after a while, and with all the games that the teachers throw in, being on the internet, they've managed very well. But it was a lot of work to be doing all of that, work online. You're teaching, you're taking care of, 3 little girls who have online school as well. But you do what you have to do.
Well, I know when we all are learning so much during this period. I'm going to come back to the benefit and loss later, but Sam, and let me welcome Assistant Principal, and this is Sister Kerry. So maybe I give her a chance. I'll come back right to her to tell you a little bit about herself. But Sam, on your level of the high school level, the youngest among us at the high school level, I'm curious about your experience with the high school level when you have to push student, when you have to say, listen, you need to get this done. And some of them, I don't know if some of them are older or equal age or bigger or what, but what's your students' reaction, and how do you navigate through the resistance, maybe, if there are?
Yeah, I think it's challenging for some students, for sure. Some students have that intrinsic motivation, so they want to do well for their own benefit, but some, they don't see the need. When we were in the school building, a lot of the boys loved to play baseball, and they wouldn't be able to play if their grades were not up to par. So not having sports be that motivating factor has kind of negatively impacted those students. I think what is a big factor for high school students is the fact that they want to do something beyond high school, whether that's college or get a job. And so, you need to graduate. You don't want to stay in the 10th grade forever. So I think at the least of it, that is their push. Through the Department of Education in the spring and in the fall, we were not allowed to fail students. They were given something called an NX, it's like a no credit. It accounts for them not doing well, but it does not fail them. So once they kind of got wind of that, sometimes the kids decided, oh, I'm going to pass anyway, so it doesn't matter. But through the partnership with families, the social worker calling and visiting homes, that has also helped. I would say the majority of my students are high performing, and attendance has been pretty good. I have my chart here. So the majority of them come to class. But when I see that a student has not come, either I will contact the family, speak to my colleagues, so that we're all working together. But earlier you mentioned, how this transition has been, and Dr. Clark has mentioned his experience. But I think being younger this time around, this school year, has been a benefit to me. Last year, I was the youngest person on staff, and it had its fair share of challenges. The majority of my colleagues are veterans, so they knew what they were going to teach with their eyes closed, and I was still trying to develop my curriculum. So they were nice, but I definitely needed more support last year. And so now that we're transitioning fully to the computer this year, I'm finding that they're asking me questions. So the tables have turned, and things aren't as challenging for me in terms of how to work different sites to keep up engagement. So it's been a nice turnaround in that aspect, but there definitely has been challenges on the other side.
So you've you've been vindicated through COVID, right? Say, yeah, got you back, because you got your old brain, now I got the smart mind, right?
They're always calling me now.
I hear you. All right, so we have Carrie Ann Samuels with us, and she is an assistant superintendent. I did tell the other participant that I expect that you would have been late because you had a meeting. So welcome, and now you can maybe tell the others a little bit about you. That brief little, who is Carrie?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just ended my parents' session. They were well behaved, but it was tough in this climate, but well behaved. I'm Carrie Ann Roberts, an assistant principal at a school in the Bronx. I've been an assistant principal for about 5 years, but I'm actually 25 years in the system. First, second, third. I didn't go up to fourth. I stopped there. I became the lit coach for my school. And then the principal saw potential in me, and she kept encouraging me to be the assistant principal for grades 3, 4, and 5. Knowing who I am, I refused, and I refused until I heard that the assistant principal was about to retire, and I'm the only one in the building that knows the building, knowing that I've been there for 20 years. So I got home and I researched DOE platform, and I got into the SBL program free of cost. So I know it was my time, and I did 18 months course, and I got my SBL, and I'm now the assistant principal at PS 78 for about 5 years now in this role.
Wow. And if you see, for those of us who know Sister Carrie, I that much I didn't know. 25 years in the system.
Yes.
That looked like she'd been in the system since she was like 10.
No. Been in the system. Now for me to go.
All right. So you from the principal standpoint, how is the challenge? Because the teachers already responded about the transition from classroom setting to remote teaching. How is it on your side from the principal, assistant principal perspective, dealing with parent and children, and to keep things structurally together to make it work?
Okay, so it is a challenge because you're handling the parent side and you're also handling the student side and teachers. And as you heard, DOE schools are closed, or many schools are closed. Here we go again with another transition. So on my part as an assistant principal, the big challenge for me is actually having the students engaged in instruction. Visiting class to class, we see that students are unengaged. Teachers are getting frustrated. So the engagement is not there. The consistency in instruction is not there due to the climate. Now, can you blame the students? Not really, because they're so distracted where they are. There are days when we're in, there are days when we're out, so they're distracted. So their mindset is not on instruction at this point. I'm sure Dr. Clark and Samantha will agree with me. You will be teaching remotely and the students are in their bed with their pillows. So, you can't get much from them. So that's my challenge, just getting the engagement back where it was and also getting them back on track, because they are moving to the next grade. And I heard Samantha said, they receive a grade of NX, and that tells them, oh, I'm moving along anyway, so I don't have to do the work. We don't give NX, we give needs improvement or Ns, and we know if you get an N, you're moving on. So for me as an assistant principal, I know there are gaps. There are gaps. There are students on grade 3 or 5 or in K, and they really don't belong in those grades because there are educational loss because of COVID. Can't blame them. That's where we are. That's the climate. However, how can we provide our student leaders, which I call them, how can we provide them with engagement where they know, okay, it's 8:30. I know that as a student, I need to get up at 8:30 and join my class, and my full attention is there. It's not there.
I imagine it, you wake up in your regular surrounding. That's where you live and move and all the time. It takes a lot of adjustment to come to grips with this is a school setting. Although it is my house, it is a school setting. Although it is my living room or dining room, it is a school setting. So the psyche of that needs major adjustment for that to happen. And so that got to be instilled gradually. And unfortunately, maybe some of the parents, I don't have the experience myself, but I'm just using real life experience. Unfortunately, some of the parents are not taking the initiative to make sure that happens. And so they're leaving it to the children to navigate and to realize the importance of that. And so that could cause lapse, on the students' perspective on their side when that need to be done in their home. And even those adults who do work from home know that they have to adjust that they're on the job sometimes and not just home.
You're right. A part that you said, the parents too have to adjust their schedule They have to adjust their lifestyle. And I just want to give credits to some parents. They really try. We have a handful of parents who really try and who try to engage with the school community. And I must give credit where credit is due. However, we have the other side who I have to work and they leave their child there with the computer. And think about a 5-year-old or 9-year-old, right? They're not as focused. So, sometimes we have to take that into consideration that the parents do have to work, because if they don't work, they won't have any shelter or food. So that's the hard part for me. And as I said, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Some parents are really becoming teachers and we are relying on them. But there are other parents who really need to make that adjustment just for it to work for the student leaders and for the school community.
Just like all levels in society, parents are different, and their responsibilities, how they manage their responsibilities, are different. So I could imagine it must be difficult. So coming back to where Dr. Clark did say, when I said part of what I wanted to ask, and I kind of hear you talk about it little by little here, but personally, what would you consider to be your benefit and loss in this experience? Benefit and loss. I heard some of yours that we communicate more, from Dr. Clark's perspective. But what would you say are your benefit and loss in this experience? And I'm going to go around the horn again on that. Let's go, Brother Clark, because you started out with the benefit and
I like to be respectful, to the ladies speak first.
Okay.
Yes, I was listening to Sister Sam earlier when she said that she loves this time because it is some issues that she should have encountered in the school. She doesn't have them. And I think that speaks for a number of teachers. For example, in this time, a teacher they're not going to get attended. They won't have attendance issue, like being absent from school. And some teachers who were having real bad attendance issue, they are enjoying this time because they're home, and you can't be absent from school when you're home. The only thing that can happen is your computer goes down or internet goes out, but you can't be absent. And the other thing is, like, if you're having issues with classroom management, like kids running all over you, then this time would be really great for you because you don't have the kids around like that. You have them virtually. Yeah, they might give you issues, and you can call the parents, or you can remove them from the meeting and all of that. So you won't. But for me, in this, I went to a meeting, and I one of the participants of the meeting said that in this time, what we do is that we have normal expectations in abnormal times, and that's a serious thing because this is a new thing to everyone. We have never been through this. No one has ever been through this before. And we're all learning. What I've lost is just the being there with the students. The subject I teach is math, and teaching math through this platform is one of the most difficult things because even you can't draw. So when I'm setting work, I have to try to set work that does not include drawing of anything based on the platform I'm using, and that is taken away from the students because, as Sister Kerry said, there are gaps. We know that every summer the kids actually went back like months in terms of what they lost throughout the summer because they're not reading, they're not doing schoolwork. Now, in this particular time when the instruction is not consistent, when the students are not engaged properly, they are losing not months, but they are losing years of educational gains. They are going backward, and this is only going to hurt them more in the future. Yes, he tried to put something inside here to appease them, to make them feel good. That look, it doesn't matter what happened, we're going to advance you. We're going to have this social promotion going. All right. So my concern is the fact that they are losing ground educationally, and I'm wondering what the generation going to be after we get out of this, in terms of the school. What is it going to be? What type of students we're going to have? We're going to have students with with years and years of gaps in the education. And that's my biggest concern.
I'm thinking that that's going to be another major transition again, and the psyche. So, but let's hear from the other teachers. What's your benefit and loss?
I can go. Well, just to comment on Brother Clark's, point, there is loss that's taking place, but I also think there's a great deal of skills that students are adopting that they wouldn't have, before. The fact that a 5-year-old can unmute themselves and conduct a Zoom call, I think that's impressive. But in terms of the reading, I do see your point. I see the point in the math skills, but I also want to give credit to the students who are taking this head on and also, getting these new skills and perfecting those new skills. In terms of my loss and my gain, I think I definitely echo Dr. Clark's feelings, sentiments, in the fact that you miss being with the students, you miss the jokes in the classroom. You miss the connection. And while I think all of us are trying to build those relationships virtually, it does take a lot more effort. I find myself that I have to smile more over camera so that I come off as personable rather than someone who's just a straight face. And that can be difficult because if you're only seeing black screens, many of my students don't turn on their camera, then it's kind of like, who are you performing for? So every day is a upward battle. So I would think that is the major loss. But in terms of the gain, I think my own technology skills have increased. I'm always trying to find different gadgets so that class can be more engaging. So it's stretching me to a different extent. But I think it's for good, right? It's not all negative. I think anxiety levels are a bit down. Sometimes you're in front of the students and you get a little nervous. So you're in the comfort of your home. So it's just a different atmosphere.
All right. Thank you so much. Dr. Blair.
Right. For me, in terms of benefits, there have been many. I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much I have enjoyed being home with my children and actually being much more active in their learning. I've always been very, participative in their learning, making sure they're, doing what they're supposed to do. But it was really enlightening and good for me to actually be home, even though I had responsibilities, and to just watch them learn, to see how, and be more involved. I knew exactly what they were going to cover, every day, and to see how much they eat, because that is something I discovered. I don't know, these kids, they get up to eat. I'm like, do you eat this often in school? But you learn just a lot more about the children. I got to spend more time with them, and I have really loved that. In terms of loss from their point of view, I realize that they miss being with their friends. So I do schedule like Zoom meetings or different things, just so that they kind of maintain that contact. But they have suffered loss in terms of social interaction. That's what, my children have said. But in terms of benefit, they've loved being home so they can eat like around the clock. Well, at least that's my assessment. For me, the benefit is flexibility. I don't have to I usually have to travel at least an hour to work. I don't have to travel. I don't, I just get up, you make yourself presentable, but you have your time is a little bit more flexible because you don't have to go in at 12:30 or teach from 1 to 2. You have to deliver material, but it's on your time. So the flexibility that virtual learning allows you to have is something that I have appreciated. Again, the drawback would be, I do appreciate being with students as well. So you do miss that interaction. But I would say overall for me, the benefits have outweighed the losses just because of, what I was able to do with my own children. So I've loved that.
Okay. All right. All right. We're moving on. I have this question that I want to ask, but it seems like you're being answering it incrementally as we go along. I wanted to ask, how are students adapting, and what would you say about their achievements? I've heard some of that some of them are achieving and some are not achieving, because, and for some people, a quiet environment is good for them. They learn more. For the vast majority, they like this group setting, class setting, interaction, feeding from each other, etc. So, at what level? Let me use maybe a percentage of your class. What percentage of your class would say is benefited from the remote learning, as opposed to a percentage that is at a disadvantage? Anybody can take that one. Sister Kerry, not in the classroom setting per se, but the others can actually. How would you weigh that out?
I would say that because of my own context, because the students are adults, they're 17, 18, 20 something year old. I would say maybe they've adapted pretty well. I would say 75%. I mean, there are some who absolutely dislike online learning. They absolutely dislike it, and they think that they're being done a disservice because they didn't pay for online learning. They paid for the on-campus experience. And they do miss out. There's something that you miss out when you learn, let's say at the college level, totally at home. There's an on-campus experience that you really miss. So, but I think that because they're adults and they realize that they're paying a lot of money, they tend to just, they level up because they have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I could jump in now. None of my students likes online learning. Not one. They complain to me almost every day that they hate it. And I understand why, because it's math. And it's not easy teaching math virtually. However, those that do come on, I would say I have 3 different classes, and the percent would actually change according to class. I have I have a graded class that I teach. 75 to 80% of them are adapting quite nicely. And why I say that they are adapting, they do work, they turn in the work. When I call them to meet, they meet, they participate in class, we have discussion, we have engagement going with that class. I have 2 different sets of grade 7 classes. I have one that operates just like that radio that I talk about. The students are fully involved, they participate, they answer questions, they turn in work on time, and all of that. Then I have another class where some of the students come on and the attendance is quite irregular. You see some today, then you don't see them 2 days from now. And then when they do come back, they're very confused because they missed some part of the instruction, so they don't have the foundation to continue. So that class, I think they're not adapting as quite as good as the other 2 classes. So it varies from class to class. But by and large, I think the students are forced to adapt. Those who are engaged, because from the parent side, the parents are encouraging them to do schoolwork. And as Sister Samantha says, that is amazing when you have a young kid can unmute and mute themselves. They're learning new strategy, they're learning new platforms, because we have, as she said, as Sister Samantha said earlier, about trying to find different platforms to engage the students. I actually have to do that too, because sometimes the platform that the school asks you to use, students are having problems getting on. For example, I was using online smart suite, and the students complain that they're not getting on, and whenever they try, they get kicked out. So then I have to try to figure out another platform, and I switch to Nearpod, and many of them are getting on, they're not complaining. So from time to time, I have to be trying to, research, seeking other platforms to engage them. So they're adapting. I like the fact that they're adapting to learning new things, and we as teachers, we're also learning new things. We're learning new ways of teaching. I think after this pandemic is over, education, teaching will never be the same. It will never be the same.
Mm. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I believe that too.
I agree. Just to chime in, I have 132 students, 4 sections of global history, and I teach an elective on identity, and I have an advisory group. So among those, or of those 132 students, I would say about 120 are consistent in handing in work. There are students who have extenuating circumstances, who have not logged in, whether that's for depression, technology issues, lack of motivation. But I think for the most part, they are trying. Do I think they put forth 100% every time I give an assignment? Absolutely not. But I am grateful that they're submitting something, right? I can grade something, I can tell you how to improve. So it's a battle of how much motivation they're willing to contribute daily. When I have first period classes, our school starts at 9:15. If I have 30 kids in a class on the roster, by 9:15, I may have 18. And then slowly throughout the period, you see a couple more trickle in. So punctuality has been an issue. But yeah, every day is something new. So we just wake up and hope for the best.
Wow. There's a lot happening here. This is a very healthy discussion, and I hope that I hope that some parents are watching, and some students are watching at different grade level. And it is fascinating because we have the elementary level, the high school level, the college level, and we have the principal level. So this is a nice forum from different perspective, and we're just about running out of time. I'm so sure that I'm going to give one more chance to do something, but I think we're going to have to maybe come back a little later when something changes, maybe when the vaccination happens and we're seeing the slow transition back into classrooms. Maybe we'll do this again. But I'm going to give everybody a chance, all four a chance to say, what advice would you give going forward? Because this will last for a while. What advice would you give to parents and students and even other teachers going forward? Even though, thank God, there is a vaccine coming and more are expected to come on board soon. What advice would you give to those who are struggling, very challenged, frustrated? What advice would you give about to student, parents, and teachers as a summary of how from your perspective?
To students, I would say this motto: begin with the end in mind. What is it that you want? Why are you studying? What is it that you're hoping to achieve? And start from there. Not from, okay, I have this assignment to do that I don't want to do, but think about your career or your life goal. What is it that I want to do? And then you think of what you have to do now as a building block, as a part of why, or a part of the journey to getting there, and let it just serve as a motivation. Now, this assumes that they have some kind of, long-term career goal, something that they're working towards, and have them, just set a schedule, just try to stay motivated. It's not easy to stay motivated in the online world, especially. It really is hard. So they have to make the extra effort to stay motivated and to get support. There are online groups of students that do get together sometimes outside of class time. They discuss the work. What did you learn? I have this question. So, call other students, get together in groups and try to maybe discuss things you didn't understand, or just, discuss challenges you're having and help each other. But, think about, this is your education. This is something that's for your benefit. For parents, I would encourage them to interact with the teachers. I think most teachers are really very willing to help parents to navigate through this. And some parents just stay frustrated, and so they don't want to talk to teachers, but just communicate. Say, I'm having issues, I'm having difficulty. Communicate with your kids' teachers, and let them know, because I know for a fact all the teachers I know really want to help parents. Everybody's trying to navigate this rough terrain. So parents have to be gentle on themselves. They have to be gentle on the teachers and on the students as well. But communicate with the teachers. And another thing I would suggest is having children pretend or act like it's a regular school day. For my children, they're not allowed to stay in bed. They get up. If classes start, they have a meet at 8:15. They're out of bed 7:30. They have breakfast. They actually have to put clothes on. They don't stay in pajamas. Just like they're going to school, they might not get dressed in a coat, but they get up, they change their clothes, they put on clothes, they sit at a desk. I'm like, you're in school, and you're not allowed to do XYZ. Just like it's just like the school day. At the end of the school day, you can play, and of course they get brain breaks, but it's kind of creating that environment too. Parents have to play their part. You're in school, you need to do what you need to do and monitor that. So basically, and educators, just stay there. Teachers, stick with it. You're doing a great job. You're doing a fantastic job. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Well said. We're going around the horn, wrapping it up around the horn.
He said it all.
She said it all. she was elected to do the summary.
The only thing I would add to that is there's a saying, there's a quote which says, "This too shall pass."
Mm-hmm.
This is uncharted waters. And as we journey through it, we have to bear that in mind, that this is not going to last forever. And the best, somebody says, the best of us normally comes out when we have difficult times. So to parents, to teachers, to students, I would say stick in there, encourage each other, team up when you can, because with team, then you can get through this better than trying to do it all on your own. And try to remember that you cannot have success without failure. Sometimes you're going to have issues, you're going to have device issues, you're going to have other issues other than device, but stick to it. Stick to it. As we go through, as a team, we will overcome.
Well said. Good thought. Good encouragement.
For me, I never got a chance to say the benefits, but I will put that in. Okay. One of the benefits of
go ahead.
It's okay. It's real quick. One of the benefits for me is, as an assistant principal in the Bronx, is our students are well behaved, and I can say that freely. So that's a big benefit for me. But word of encouragement to students, teachers, parents. At the moment, we're studying the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? And one of the habits is be proactive, put in first things first. So for student, parents, and teachers, just be proactive. Especially, for example, a teacher, you have a lesson to teach. You can't wait until 8 o'clock to teach that lesson or to prepare for that lesson. You have to do that beforehand in order to engage the students, because our student leaders know when you're not prepared. So if you want to engage them, you got to be proactive and know beforehand what you're going to communicate to the students. Put in first thing first for the student leaders. All right, what is it I'm going to do? I know I have to wake up. I can't wake up and begin to watch TV. I know I have to get to class on time. So I am going to prepare myself to get to class on time. Put in first things first. So I am going to stick to these 7 habits, and that will mold teachers and students and parents. And just being flexible, and just remember, we're all in this together.
Teamwork. Well,
Yeah.
Sam, you started, so I know you're going to wrap it up for us.
Yes. So to students, I would just encourage them to try and to communicate concerns respectfully. To parents, I would just ask that you're patient because teachers are navigating uncharted waters. To teachers, yeah, to parents, I would say that. To teachers, I would say to practice self-care because if you're not good, if you're not investing in yourself, then it's going to be very hard to pour into somebody else. I think teachers and pastors have very similar experiences, right? Teacher worries about a student more than they may think, lose sleep over them, while I imagine a pastor, really is concerned about the person's soul and how they're doing spiritually. So I see many connections between the two jobs. And also to teachers, I would encourage them to use breakout room groups. So if we're on a Zoom, you don't have to always facilitate the conversation with 30 people. You can put the students in breakout rooms, smaller groups, so that they can have a conversation and works amongst themselves, because oftentimes they learn a lot more effectively from their peers than a teacher's voice. So kind of trust them that they will do the work independently or collaboratively. And I would just, give positive energy to everybody because it's not an easy job.
Well said. Piggybacking to one point that Dr. Clark made about learning or failing. And one of what I jot down is that you show me somebody who've never failed, and I'll show you somebody who've never tried anything. I forget what the name of the person was, and maybe because you're a teacher, you remember. I forget the name of the person. It was Franklin or something like that. That says somebody has tried something that he has failed 1,000 times, maybe failing doing something 1,000 times, and somebody asked the person the question, "How do you feel to have failed 1,000 times?" And the response was, "I did not fail 1,000 times. I figured out 1,000 things that didn't work." so it's not that I failed, I found out 1,000 things that did not work. So in all of that, it's a learning process. So every failure is a learning level that I try something else. So we look at this in the challenges and the struggles that you're experiencing, that when you hit those dark spots in your own experience, they're not because you're failing, you're learning. And I heard Sam say that too, that her skills are magnified, or technological skills have been so advanced as the demand, as the demand become necessary, that you have to adjust to doing things. And so I think there's a learning and the growing in all aspect. And what I think will happen eventually, when you get back into your classroom, your familiar territory, you're going to be way better than when you left it, because you're going to come in back now with so much more skills that you can add to your teaching, your classroom. And I appreciate all of you, because listen, they talk about the doctors and the nurses and the policemen and everybody on the front line. My belief is that the front of the front line are teachers, other than in the health play where you deal with COVID personally, because nobody make it to where they want to go if they don't get a chance to learn. And so the teachers become the most important. Doctors, nurses, everybody, pastors, everybody need to learn. And so it comes from the teacher's level. So I want to appreciate you as the teachers who have struggled and faced a challenge with our children, and continue to be committed to their learning, and not to be negligent because you have already learned. Sometimes we could say, well, it's up to you. If you don't want to do it, it's up to you. I got my education already. That could be the attitude. But thank you so much for your investment into the children that has been committed to your care. And I wish you the best going forward. And I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you guys another time when hopefully things change. Thank you so much, Dr. Marlene Collins Blair, Dr. Douglas Clark, Teacher Carrie Ann Roberts, and Samantha Reed, my special guest on Grace Without Borders and an ORB Ministries YouTube channel. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great night. And I think we're all in the circle of where the snow is falling. It is coming down like crazy where I am. And so be careful if you have to move tomorrow. And if you don't have to, stay warm, stay dry, stay encouraged, stay blessed. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I so appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having
Thank
me.
you.
The pleasure of being with everyone on the panel tonight.
Thank you. What a good, I feel like we could go 2-3 hours with just like sitting down and talking to good people and learning so much from that. But take a note, I'm gonna send out this again and we'll talk again another time.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good
evening, everybody.
All right.
You too. Take care.
All right.